Your avoidant ex couldn't handle you. It's not that you weren't enough for them. You were plenty more than enough. You were too much. But that doesn't mean it's a bad thing. What it means is that you were emotionally available. You were vulnerable. You formed a pretty significant connection with them. You showed them love. You showed them affection. You showed them vulnerability. You showed them empathy. You showed them compassion. You showed them care and kindness. Those are amazing qualities. And the avoidant recognized that. They recognized how special you are. That's precisely why they pushed you away. They couldn't handle your emotional availability. If you're dealing with a dismissive avoidant, your emotional availability is the trigger. You're not enough for them. You're too much. This is a person that received consistent childhood emotional neglect. They were not given that love and nurturing that they needed. They grew up in a household where you don't talk about feelings. Their own feelings were routinely dismissed and rejected. They could even be reprimanded for expressing emotions, so emotions weren't safe. They personalized that neglect. Growing up to feel defective and unlovable is a wound of shame. And because of this wound, they put up walls around their heart. And they protect themselves from having their shame exposed because their subconscious fear is, if I lower my walls and I let my partner in, my partner is going to figure out that I'm defective and unlovable and they're going to reject me. So that's why emotional closeness feels unsafe to them, but emotional distance feels so much safer. When they get into a relationship with a partner that's loving and emotionally available, it feels great at first. But eventually, their insecurities come into play because now they view you as too good for them. You're too emotional, you're too in touch with your emotions, you're too vulnerable, you have too many feelings, and it floods them with anxiety because they can't handle your feelings. They can't even handle their own. They don't even understand their own emotions because they've spent their entire lives suppressing their emotions. It becomes too much for them because they don't have the capacity to really have deep emotional bonds. They don't have the capacity to form that deep emotional connection and love. They keep it surface level because that's what they have the capacity for. They long for something more. They want that deep love and connection, but when they get it, they don't know how to handle it and they run from it. That's why when they do commit to longer term relationships and marriages, most commonly it's with a partner that's emotionally unavailable, like another avoidant or a narcissist or someone along those lines. Because there's no threat of emotional intimacy in that relationship. It's not deep, it's not profound. This person's not vulnerable with them. It feels safe. But it's ultimately not fulfilling. It's ultimately unhealthy. So they do leave those relationships to find someone like you, somebody who is willing to be vulnerable and really connect with them. But then when they get it, it triggers their wounds. The cycle can continue and continue until the avoidant gets to the place where they're willing to self-reflect, willing to look within and face that shame and face those insecurities and heal them and commit to a change in behavior. And this should include therapy. But if they're not willing to do it, then all the love in the world won't fix them. And because of that defensive shell they put up, they struggle to look within. And they look for excuses on the external to blame these behaviors and insecurities. Deep down, they feel not good enough for you. But they'll try to justify their behavior by trying to find faults in you, blaming it on you. That way they get to avoid that wound of shame. But it doesn't mean that it really is you. It doesn't mean that you're not good enough. They actually feel deep down not good enough for you, but if they can find some sort of excuse to blame it on you, they don't have to take accountability and face that wound. But it doesn't make it so. It doesn't make it actually your fault. If you showed up and you were loving and consistent, and you really were kind to them and a good partner to them, and they pushed you away, giving you excuses like they can't give you what you need, or you're just too much or too needy, it doesn't mean that you weren't good enough for them. Deep down, they felt not good enough for you and they haven't healed those wounds, and you're not responsible for those wounds. So don't blame yourself. If you're a good partner, hold your head up high and recognize that you deserve somebody who will give you the same love and energy in return that wouldn't push you away because you're a good partner.